Hello again everyone, Melth here, and I have leveled up since making my previous guide video about hitting level 8 in Act 1 without using any exploits. One thing that I love about this great game is how many creative ways there are to solve problems in it, and I've been finding dozens, if not hundreds, of creative ways to earn more experience points in this game and level up faster than people think is possible. In fact, on this, my most recent run, I found enough new tactics and tricks to earn more than 5,000 more experience than the previous best record I had seen for the end of Act 2. I surpassed my goal for this run, which had been to be level 11 before fighting Ketheric for the first time. As you can see here, I haven't yet gotten to the Shadowfell, and I'm already level 11 at this point. I was almost level 9 leaving Act 1, and was level 6 before even leaving the Wilderness, the big first region of the game. You can really do a lot if you know where to look for extra XP, I would say. By the time I reached the Apostle of Myrkul, the normally epic boss of Act 2, I almost outleveled the poor guy with over 9,000 experience banked toward level 12. So gather around the campfire everyone, because I have more than 100 tips to share today to help you level up faster in your own runs and get those fun multi-class builds online earlier in the game. I'm confident that even veteran players will be learning some new forbidden knowledge today. But I would love to hear your ideas too. I bet together we can beat this record. Now I'm going to provide timestamps breaking up my tips by region. But before I get into that, I'm going to talk about the fundamentals of how experience works in this game, because I see a lot of misconceptions about that online. Alright, so there are 4 sources of experience points to talk about in this game. The first and simplest one of them is quest experience. Right now, for example, I have a quest to give a Githyanki egg to Esther here. So if I do that, you hear the XP chime sound in the background, and we see I got 145 experience points for that. A pretty good chunk. Now, quest experience is pretty simple in that it doesn't matter what level you are or anything like that. You always get the same amount of experience points for each quest. Just a fixed amount for that quest, or for that resolution of that quest. So, to maximize your quest experience, you want to do every quest first of all. But also it's important to note, a lot of quests give you experience points along the way for following each breadcrumb, which you miss out on if you skip to the end. So, do every quest from beginning to middle to end, following each step they tell you to do. Don't skip anything, don't sequence break. And also importantly, note that if you resolve quests in kind of like an unintended way, you might not get experience points. For example, there was a dialogue option there to punt the egg off the cliff instead of handing it over to her. If I'd done that, well, it resolves the quest, but you get nothing, you lose. Good day, sir. No experience points for that resolution. So do every quest from beginning to middle to end, and resolve things in the most obvious way. Don't try to do anything out of the ordinary. Now the second source of experience points to talk about is XP for defeating creatures. So if I was to just kill Esther here, I get 75 experience points for that. Now defeating creatures can mean knocking them out, it can mean killing them. In many dialogues, it can mean talking them down without a fight. But not all the time. You can't count on dialogue defeats to actually count as defeating a creature. So, violence is not the answer. Violence is the question. And the answer is yes, by default. Unless I point out that dialogue gives you more experience points, which is super, super rare, you should assume that you should, fight every creature in the game to get maximum experience points. Now, it's worth noting also, there used to be a bug where if you, for example, KO'd a creature first, then reloaded, and then killed them after that or something like that, you could double up on the defeat experience points. That is not the case anymore, and likewise, if you talk a creature down and avoid a fight, you then get nothing if you kill them later on. With, that is, a very small number of exceptions that I'll be talking about. So, our third category of XP is where things get complicated. Exploration XP. Everything up until now is always the same fixed amount. If you kill Esther at level 1 or at level 10, you get 75 XP. Doesn't matter. Likewise with quests. But exploration XP sometimes, arbitrarily, does depend on your level. So the way it works is that certain points are defined in the game files as being either small, medium, or big exploration rewards. Trail to Kraken's Crossroads over here is a big exploration reward. Now I also want to note that there are some bugs, some areas just don't work. You just don't get the exploration XP for them even when you walk into the area. The game has some bugs in it, that's the way it is.
Never a dull moment.
Now, the thing is, although there's not really a logical pattern to the XP exploration reward amounts, it does at least constantly increase with your level. So if you're level 1 going to a place like this, you get much less XP than if you're level 10 going to this place. In particular, going from 4 to 5 is a really steep jump up, and then it slows down for a while. So you can kind of say as a general strategy, it suits you well to not explore very much until you're level 5, and only then start going to new areas. Ideally, you delay even beyond that to get even more XP, but the diminishing returns get pretty substantial at that point. However, I did make note of a few places in the game where you really could just come back at will to a place that there's no reason to actually go to earlier on, and then get the maximum amount of XP from that. I'll talk about that in a list when we get to an appropriate time. So last and very much least, let's talk about Inspiration XP. The one that not just the players get wrong, the game itself gets it wrong. So Inspiration XP is based entirely upon your character's background. Will, for example, is always the folk hero, the Dark Urge is always the haunted one. So when you get certain story events, or things you could do in the world, usually with a thematic connection to your background, you get a few Inspiration XP points. For example, right now the Dark Urge has 2228 XP, Will has 2263. If I now eat this roasted dwarf, that inspires the Dark Urge. Notice it's going to say 30 XP up here, and that's going to be a lie. The game gets it wrong like 90% of the time for some reason. The truth is almost always a smaller number, in this case 25. The combat log tells the truth about it. So you can see I'm now at 2253 XP for the Dark Urge, but Will's hasn't changed. Inspiration is the one kind of XP that is not shared among party members. That is, it's not shared directly. Watch what happens if I now boot Will out of the party and add him back in.
Thought of something.
2253. That's right, Will has lost XP. People who join the party get forced up or down to match the main character. Note, by the way, there is absolutely no way in the entire game ever to reverse the effect and have a companion's Inspiration XP go to the main character. It is a one-way thing. Main character drags people down or pushes them up to match the main character. That's all there is to it. So, strategically speaking, what can we do about Inspiration? Well, really just not that much, honestly. It's mostly just a matter of, the more thoroughly you play the game, the more of it you'll get with all your characters. And I guess if a character falls behind, boot them out of the party and put them back in. If they get ahead, try to avoid booting them out. But it's going to be a very small difference over the course of 2 acts. Like the worst background, folk hero, compared to the best one, the Dark Urge, over the course of 2 acts is barely any difference whatsoever. I guess the Dark Urge has a slight advantage in Act 1, I'd say, because Act 1 is way better than everyone else's, so you can pass the XP on to all your other side party members. So besides the Dark Urge being good for Inspiration, the other person who's a good maximizing experience contender, I would say, is Origin Gale, actually. The reason is, if you're playing as Origin Gale, toward the end of Act 1, you can kill Elminster with no consequences whatsoever. You get 1000 XP, which is a really nice reward, and nothing bad happens. If you play as anyone else and you do that, then late in Act 2 you'll lose Gale forever. So, if you want to have Gale in your party, you better not kill Elminster, basically. Unless, that is, you are Origin Gale, and then do whatever you want to that poor guy. But for this run, to keep things more normal, as it were, I'll be playing as the Dark Urge and going through things that way. Now I'm going to go through the entirety of Acts 1 and 2 here, but I'm not going to show you every single random fight against a goblin. That would be a waste of time, because you know how to get that XP already, really. You should assume as a default, go everywhere, do every quest, battle every enemy. What I'm going to talk about and break down the numbers for are easily missed quests, or hidden enemies, or things like situations where resolving conflicts in a non-obvious way gives you more XP, or where a strange choice leads to extra XP, or you can double up on XP, and things like that. Special tricks and unusual things that I found while researching through the game. Note also, this is meant to be kind of a menu of options for you to pick and choose from as suits your taste. Think about your roleplay goals for your run, whatever your challenge rules for your run might be, things like that. Some things that I'll be doing here are good for XP maximization, but don't make much roleplay sense. I'll often highlight those in yellow text, I think, as I go through. A few of them are good for XP, but could have consequences for your run, like killing Elminster, for example. I'll put the text in those in red to mark those as warnings. So, go through, pick the options that you want to do, get the XP from those. Don't do the ones that don't fit your run, of course. I have found about 32,000 points of extra XP, I would say, and I needed only about 22,000 of those to be level 11 before fighting Merkel, for example. So you can skip about 10,000 worth of these things and still hit level 11 before that final boss of Act 2 as a good benchmark. Let's get into things here. So our quest for XP actually begins here on the Nautiloid. If you hit the middle button here and free these cultists, you can actually fight them. They're worth 10 XP apiece, which in the early game is not trivial. Now, something interesting over here. It used to be on previous patches, when you hit that button, turn this person into a Mind Flayer, you could then use a Caustic Bulb or maybe a Nautiloid tank to blow it up for 75 XP. However, I can't find any way to do that on the current patch. Let me know if you can, because that would be worth 75 XP if we could, but I can't get it to work with anything I've tried. Now, the very most important thing to do before leaving the Nautiloid is to take out Commander Zolk and the Mind Flayer and both Cambions. That, of course, is easier said than done. It is, in fact, one of the toughest fights in all of Baldur's Gate 3. But I have now several guide videos about how to do that as different classes and so forth. Check those out if you're having trouble with this thing. It's the perfect setup for this kind of run. You get a massive 300 experience points from this. Truly, for this stage of the game, gigantic. You will hit level 3 before even getting to the Druid Grove like that. The starting gold that you get to and the items are also very valuable for the early game. So, a great start to your run, and a very fun battle too. Highly recommend trying it. So here we are on the beach before the fight against the Intellect Devourers. And it's important now to talk about some exploration XP things. My characters could hit level 2, but they haven't done so yet, so they're still level 1. If I now jumped up this cliff and went over that natural bridge to a treasure chest up there, which is very easily missable, I would get 5 XP. A small reward at level 1 is only 5 XP. But if I'd come here at level 5, it would be worth 80 XP. Plus 75, or 16 times what I'm getting at level 1. An absolutely massive difference. But, if you're willing to, you can push it even further than that. The thing is, there's absolutely no pressing need to go to that chest whatsoever. Like, loot in it is garbage and unimportant. So I waited until I was deep in Act 2 and hit level 10 before going back to do this exploration XP. It is now worth a ton more than it would have been at that point. And I made note of several places throughout the game where there is a free-floating amount of exploration XP that you can save without consequences and do later on. So here I got 255 XP by just delaying that a lot. Another one is here on the Harpy Beach. Deal with the Harpies, save Mercon, whatever point in the game you want to do that. Obviously it has to be before, the Tiefling party and things like that. But then there's a treasure chest back here. That also gives you exploration XP. You can probably roleplay to say your characters missed it the first time and came back for it later on, but nothing good in it, nothing good past it really, and delaying it gives you a huge chunk of XP. It's hard to say how much this one is really worth exactly, because you probably won't be level 1 getting here, but overall I calculate these exploration XP things that I found here will probably get you between 2,000 and 3,000 extra XP with the amount of delaying them over the natural exploration timing. Another good one is here in the Zhentarim hideout. Behind this illusory wall is an elevator you can ride down to the Underdark, and that is worth XP. You can also get the same XP if you explore the Zhentarim Underdark stash area too much, so I'd say just delay that. Nothing important in it. In the Myconid colony, there are actually 2 exploration XP chunks you can do at the same time for some reason, over here in their treasure hoard building. You could accidentally get one of them prematurely if you just walk to this edge of it here, so don't do that. Wait and don't resolve this Myconid treasure quest until you are high level, then walk in and you get 3 chunks of XP at once. 1 for finishing up the quest, which is doable even if the Myconids are dead or whatever, and then 2 for exploring this area. A quite good reward to just delay. Another that is easily saved without consequence is here in the illusory mushroom area of the Underdark. Go through the illusory wall and we will find it.
That caught my eye. Another illusion.
If there's one area of the game where you want to be high level before going in, it is this whole complex of the Mountain Pass and then Rosymorn Monastery and the Githyanki Creche underneath. There's one that's hard to skip, it's right here by this waypoint, which is an important crossroads. But I realize you can actually skip that if you use something like Fly, go over here and just go down to where Esther is. And then there's another waypoint with no opposition in the way that you can get to first. And that will then allow you to come back here at will. So I will find the path there. We could chat up Esther. We could just walk down to the ski lift type thing and ride that down to the Rosymorn Monastery waypoint. They can come back here at will for a huge chunk of XP. Another bit of exploration XP you can save is behind the front doors of Rosymorn Monastery. You can skip those entirely if it's going through the Githyanki Creche via its back door, which I recommend doing for several reasons actually. And then if you walk over here later on in the game, you'll get a big exploration area. Quite valuable. Alright, back to the main order of events here. This is the dying mind flayer on the Nautiloid, and you might as well just shoot him. Simple as that. You get the XP for just killing the creature, and then you get also inspiration for that. I tried things like actually letting him eat a party member's brain and then killing him after that when he was at full power or whatever. Doesn't give you anything extra, so don't do that. Just do things the easy way and move on.
Till it ends.
Over here, we're about to recruit Lae'zel, and these two tieflings here, Dames and Nemessa, as far as more, are never seen anywhere else in the game, so there's no consequence whatsoever for killing or KOing them here. And I feel it's comparatively easy to justify given they're talking about killing the person who you just helped on the Nautiloid anyway. They are worth 30 XP, killed or knocked out. So here we are at the Goblin Gate battle. Nothing special to do in this battle. What I want to say though is just, there are many times in Act 1 when you can have high ground advantage, and that's worth a lot, but make sure that you don't ever, throwing weapons from high ground, kill enemies with gravity damage. If that happens due to a bug, you sometimes just won't get the XP. It's not really predictable. So never ever risk the gravity damage of a thrown weapon from high ground killing an enemy. Here we are at the secret Harper stash, by the way. There's one minor thing you can do here, which is after reaching to this rocky crevice,
lies a bag.
You can antagonize these spiders for no reason. You can then end up fighting these spiders for 3 XP apiece, so 12. So it's a little bit. 3 things to think about as you enter the Emerald Grove here. One of them is, first of all, just come here before going to Withers' tomb. You might be tempted to go there to respec your garbage party member starting stats, but you actually want to read a certain journal over there first. Number 2, you want to persuade Eridan's group to stay, so you can do a certain quest later on with a locket being stolen from one of them, among other things.
You let them. You're worried about your precious inner, at least.
There we go. So they'll stick around, and we can then get a quest for an amulet being stolen from Barth later on. The third thing to do is go up here and save the tiefling Nadira from the bugbear that would assassinate her. This is worth, I think, in total 75 XP. One thing that I'm not doing on this run that would have given me a little bit more XP, but not very much, is I'm not going to kill the tieflings. At least not the ones that don't have a good justification for killing individually at certain plot points, I suppose. She'd only be worth 1 XP if I killed her at this point. Most tieflings are just worth 1 XP and not really worth bothering with, even if you do have a roleplay reason to do so, which I usually find hard to justify anyway. Hypothetically, if you did kill all the tieflings, I think it'd be worth like about 300 XP in total. Probably a little bit less than that, actually. For sure, don't do it before you've done all their quests and things like that. Even KOing them could ruin those, so watch out. As an example of the XP you get for starting quests in the right way, if you read this book here, it tells you about the ruin that Withers is in, over here to the south. It gives you 15 XP. If you skip that step and just go into the ruin directly, you miss that XP forever. So here we are outside of Withers' tomb. Now, I mentioned before that in most of the game, if you talk down an enemy to avoid a fight, you might get the XP as if you defeated them, but you certainly will not get anything extra if you then kill them. This is a very rare exception.
Ready.
And we convince them to try to get out of here. Then if we go into turn-based mode pretty quickly here, and attack them before they get away, they're actually still worth XP, which, as I said, is unusual. So we get an extra 50 there. Back in the Emerald Grove, this area here past Aaron, this is like XP Alley. It is full of tons of tieflings. Almost all of them have some super minor thing you can do that gives you XP. If you help like Wex get better at his sword fighting, that's worth XP. If you spot the secret entrance behind Dawning, that's worth XP. If you go over here and see through Mattis' scam, that's trickier to do, but that is worth a fair amount of XP actually. So first talk to Mattis with someone who's a wizard or a warlock or someone else who can see through the magic ring part of it. We play along at first.
Call it heads or tail. I've got more where that came from.
Then we call out that the ring is not in fact magical.
Hey, not. I wish.
We point out the scam.
I don't know what you mean.
We explain it properly.
That hurts. I'm running an on. Uh-huh. Huh. And I promise this isn't a Tinker's trash scout.
Then we continue to point out that it's a con.
Look, last chance. You want to look at my stuff or
And then we refuse to play along at this point.
no food?
So that's worth 45 XP. Pretty good if we're just choosing a random dialogue path. Then we're going to have Karlach as my best perceiver. He needs someone who's good at perception go next. And who's not the original person. So Karlach, go up. You're the best perceiver in my party. And talk to Mattis again.
Hold out your hand, Leg. Go on.
Okay, so we go along and play along.
Heads or... I've got more where that came from.
Then we ask to see the other wares.
That's what I got.
Now this is crucial. People often misunderstand this. You must buy or sell something to get this interaction to happen. So, yeah. There we go.
You bought...
Then you need to succeed that DC 10 perception check, which we did there. So we catch him stealing. And that gives us 25 more XP. 70 for that entire set of interactions. Pretty good. Right, Alfira over here, you should help with her song first. It's worth a bit of XP. And then if you're the Dark Arch, you should probably KO her so she doesn't get murdered later on. All told, all the various minor tieflings you can help with random minor things like Roland's group and Gwex and so forth are worth about 60 or 70 XP. Now over here, the quest for Meli, the kid, has stolen the Locket from Barth has begun. We now want to get involved with that, and I think there's one path that leads to the best outcomes here. It's a pretty weird little mini quest though, so we've got to make sure we handle it correctly.
Only gonna ask you one more time, but hand it over.
So we tell him not to hit the kid.
You threatening me?
We talk him down. Maybe don't do friends, that could cause problems.
You don't.
We get a bit of XP for that, beginning that step of the quest.
See you around.
We'll now go over to the hideout. We can then steal back the Locket pretty easily. And this seems to be crucial, by the way. You must talk to him with whatever the original character was who antagonized him about the amulet earlier with the interaction with Meli. If you're in disguise or anything like that, this won't work. It's also that little mini quest is worth 40 XP. To get it again, make sure that Barth and Aridin got in here alive and stayed here. Then just kind of come back into this area of the Grove after your first few visits here, and then hang out until Meli steals the Locket and gets away, and then you can get involved at that point. Make sure to get the quest to get the Night Song from Aridin, and then after that, you can just kill or KO the rest of his group. They've got it coming. Or rather, Aridin has it coming, and the rest of them just kind of suffer guilt by association. They're worth 50 XP. As we get into the Emerald Grove Sanctum here, one thing that's very important is to make sure that we save Arabella from Kaga. That will unlock some important interactions and quests with Arabella later on in the game. It also is an easy way to win Maul's favor and be able to get into the Tiefling hideout, which is useful. Then the other important thing to do, besides beginning the quest to get back Halsin, is we want to go and get the quest to investigate Kaga over back here by finding her secret chest and secret note. That quest is missable, and it's important to do it at the right time. We want to begin the quest now, and then take care of it before dealing with the goblin leaders. Alright, so here's Nettie. If we handle this right, we can get a lot of XP out of things here. And the way to handle it right is to basically be a complete idiot at every step of this dialogue. So we go into this back room area here, and we pretend not to realize what she's doing, that she's planning to poison us. And we refuse to give her any information or cooperate in any way.
No, you don't. Give me your arm, please.
And then we stupidly hold out our arm.
There. Be careful.
So she's poisoned us.
I'm sorry. I'm true.
Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we can now go ahead and just attack her. So KOing her or whatever is worth 20 XP. Then if we drink an antidote to cure ourselves, or any other thing that cures it basically, that's worth 75 XP. So 95 in total for handling things in this way, versus 0 I think for doing it the more normal person way. Alright, so over here where Saz has been kept in prison, about to be shot by people with a crossbow, we want to come up and basically escalate the situation and end up taking out these two tieflings. They're worth 40 XP that way. Then if we free Saza, Saza's also worth a fair amount of XP. There's a whole little quest to get her out, and we definitely want to do all of that. Now, as I've said, in most cases in this game, violence is the question, and the answer is yes. But the interaction here with the cult siblings is a rare exception. So he asked what happened to their brother.
Looking for fugitives.
So now we tell them to go, find the beast and avenge their brother.
It's killed one. You're right.
They keep.
That is worth 70 XP, more than they're worth if you kill them. But also, if you actually kill them now, you get even more XP for them. And you have their help against the owlbear too. Though, bear in mind they will try to kill the owlbear cub, so if you want the cub, don't allow that to happen. That reminds me of one thing. So of course, on honor difficulty, the owlbear will be able to summon its mate, which is worth another 20 XP, which is absolutely a horrible amount for how difficult and dangerous the owlbear fight is. But just bear in mind, in general, there are a small number of fights in the game where you have a few more enemies on tactician difficulty or honor difficulty, and thereby get a little bit more XP. I'll point out the ones that I know over the course of the game. There aren't very many of those. Before going to the Goblin Village here, disguise yourself as a drow of some kind, and then just walk into their little ambush. Then they'll apologize because you're a drow.
Of course. Move it, lads!
And there we go. We get the 100 XP we get for defeating the 5 goblins, plus a 70 bonus that's only doable by doing this as a drow for whatever reason. Make sure that you do as usual, just kill the stray patrolling goblins and things like that across the rest of the town. Alright, with the windmill goblins torturing the gnome, we once again want to disguise ourselves as a drow, but there is more to maximizing this encounter than that.
What have we got it?
So blah 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 blah. Do a check here to convince him that we are in fact a true soul or whatever.
Alright, come on, you lot!
So we let them start moving. That gives us 70.
I knew something to eat.
Then they start to leave, and now, kind of like with the Hobbit earlier in the game, we now go into turn-based mode, and now we're going to start walking up and pummeling them. But here's a crucial thing. We do not want to kill Fezzerk yet. Once Fezzerk goes down, the rest of them immediately get to leave, and you can't really stop them. They lose all their XP. So kill Fezzerk last. Another 150 that way compared to what we get if we just went for him immediately.
Can't give up now.
In the same general area, I think it's a somewhat infamous encounter, but still easily missed if you don't know about it. Make sure to catch the bugbear and the ogre in flagrante delicto there and fight them. That's worth 95. And then also up here, make sure to manage to get the knife out of the roasted meat. That is worth another 15. So, here we are in the Blighted Village underneath the alchemist's house, doing the Necromancy of Thay quest, which I just want to praise as one of the coolest, best designed optional quests in the game. Very intricate, many interesting parts to it, many areas it connects to, even back to the main quest in Act 3. Great stuff. This fight here is somewhat missable, apparently. Foolishly open them up one after another, you will get maximum XP, which is 70. An important bonus tip here. If you play your cards right, you can now get Shovel as a permanent familiar in your party, but you need to have the right classes in the group. You can learn this permanently as a wizard scroll, but you can also get it permanently on any warlock or some sorcerers, not storm sorcerers though. So to do that, have someone who's a warlock like my Gale right now, go ahead and summon that Quasi. Just play along here, usually pick the friendly options. Which you must say Shovel is fine. If you change it, sometimes you don't get her for some reason.
Cutting locals, raising the dead, making them walk,
So, we play along.
Illy's so busy, only cares about the book. Book this. Oh, talk to the mirror.
And this, of course, is a lie. So, then we have Gale go ahead in there, run on in, make sure that Shovel gets in too, and then immediately turn around and let's talk to Shovel right now.
Colour me him.
Oh?
This dialogue means you're good, and now you'll permanently know the spell to summon Shovel.
Magic to call Shovel.
One interesting trick pointed out to me by a viewer of one of my previous videos is that if you cast Knock on Necromancy of Thay, you can summon a shadow to fight. So I cast that, the shadow comes out, 75 XP, nice. So the next thing we need, of course, is the Dark Amethyst, which we get from near the Spider Queen down there. If you allow her to summon every single one of them from all of her hordes of eggs, and kill all those little spiderlings, then you get 54 XP that way. Make sure, by the way, that you don't knock her into the central pit, or you lose the XP for killing her, period. So this next part you might not want to do on every run, but I would recommend it overall, I would say. And it is to destroy the Necromancy of Thay, but in the right way here. So first of all, drop it on the ground, put it in a nice sunny area for your own convenience later on. Then we're going to read it while it's on the ground, and while we have all of our saving throw boosting equipment equipped. We will place the amethyst in it.
Piercing amethyst eyes.
Then we open it while it's on the ground.
The books play in your mind.
So we get a nice hidden buffer that gives us +1 to wisdom saves and skills for the rest of the game, which is really quite valuable on the main character.
It's closed.
Anyway, now normally, if we read it from our inventory, it would now be bonded to us basically, and we could not drop it on the ground again. Usually. Occasionally it does let you do so for whatever reason, but you don't want to risk not being able to do so. Then you're kind of locked into resolving the quest in Act 3. But if you drop it on the ground to read it, you can now do some radiant damage to it and destroy it that way. And that will summon some shadows for us to battle against. And we also get XP for just destroying the book. So all told, we got 340 XP for that. Really a big amount for a very easy fight. Of course, the downside is that means we can't complete this quest in Act 3. But I would say that mechanically, the Act 3 benefits you get are pretty worthless. The things you get from are 20 temporary hit points per long rest, which is like nice if you're in Act 1, but in Act 3 that's trash. You can get things that give you that much like per round in Act 3, so who cares? Then the bigger perk, of course, is you can do Dance Macabre to summon a bunch of ghouls. Well, that sounds great. I love summons. I have just armies of summons on most of my runs. But they're ghouls you can't control. And also, when they die, they blow up and damage everything that's nearby them, which is more likely to be each other and your own party than it is any enemies. And worst of all, though, they split up your initiative order. If you have party members that you can control before them and ones you can control after them, you can't have those guys collaborate anymore. So, I would never cast Dance Macabre anymore. So I would recommend, mechanically, destroy the book. If you like the quest, if you like having ghouls you can't control, go ahead and keep it around, I guess, but this is a good way to get some experience, at least. A misconception, by the way. Some people on the previous video thought you should not destroy Necromancy of Thay, because if you do that, then you can't sacrifice it to get the Shar blessing in Act 3. That's wrong, though. Right here I still have the Forbidden Knowledge perk. That's what you turn in at the Mirror of Loss to Shar, if you wanted to do that. So let's take a detour into the swamp to investigate the Shadow Druid connection thing there. One thing that's quite important for setting up XP later on is, once again, there's a reward for being a dummy and being fooled by the hag. So if we come up here and basically take her side and KO the two brothers so they'll get to live, that will help set us up for a good dialogue line later on. We say this, we play along.
Careful! Oh my stars! I didn't mean for this to happen.
Alright. So that takes care of that. The exploration here is not level based, so don't worry about that. Just kill the red caps and then make your way over to the tree where the mud mephits and so forth are waiting over there. And get the revelation that Kaga is in fact a shadow druid. Make sure also not to forget to save Murkon from the harpies. You only have one chance to do that for going to the beach, and if you've resolved things with the goblins, then it's too late for that. And as I said before, when you've dealt with them, do not go down and explore that treasure chest area there, or you'll end up getting XP that you don't really want to get until you're higher level. Also make sure to go to Mall and get the quest to steal the idol before resolving the Kaga Shadow Druid quest. And in here, of course, we want, as usual, to take the path of maximum violence.
I sent you to Zevlor.
Above all, no mercy for Kaga, kill her, she's worth 150 XP. The whole set of all the druids and the resolution of the quest here or whatever, worth about 411, I think, so pretty substantial. But Kaga is a big chunk of that. Now we can safely go ahead and steal the idol and then hand it in to Maul to resolve that quest without causing war between the tieflings and the druids. With that, back to slaughtering goblins. Nothing really of note to talk about in the remainder of Blighted Village or this goblin stronghold there. Just exterminate the goblins and then move along. Do play Chicken Chase over here though. Gives you 35 XP. Does not matter whether you play it legitimately or just tell the chicken to go over the finish line. Go ahead and talk to the goblins and so forth. Do not, though, poison the booze tub before killing them all. If you poison them, you sometimes miss out on some of their XP. So you want to kill them all legitimately, no poison. Before that though, up here is Booyog Piddle.
The better of them.
And he basically never ever joins a fight. And will in fact escape during the fight with almost no way to stop him unless you come up here and kill him before you actually battle the goblins. So that is what I'm going to go do now. Inside the temple, kind of like with Healer Nettie, there's a reward for just being dumb and getting poisoned/captured avoidably.
Somebody special.
So, we go through this.
Tell your friend to keep ready for the fire, are ya?
We go ahead, we let ourselves get branded. We see a vision from her or whatever. And we sever the connection.
Brushed against one another.
Don't want to get intimate in front of the novices. Fair enough. Maybe I can help with that.
So we agree to this.
Let's deal with this in my chat.
Okay, so off she goes. It gives us a bit of XP right there. And then we will have just our main character, the Dark Warriors, go on there. You have to go off on your own and get tricked. In the most predictable possible way.
It'll purify ya.
So I go ahead and we drink the sleeping potion.
Sweet dreams.
We get some XP for that. Really, you get rewarded a lot for just being dumb.
Don't.
Corilla will come and save you if you completely fail, but I think it's better to just escape on your own and get the XP from killing her yourself. We've now killed Gut and her bodyguard Polma the Ogress. Now we can head over down to the Underdark through the nearby puzzle passage over this way. And then there's one important thing to do once you get to that Saluna Shrine down there. So here we are right outside the gate. Minotaur is getting torn apart by the laser beam shooters there. We now go into turn-based mode, and we steal the kill from them. There we go, 75 XP for that. Now the BOOOAL that guards this part of the Underdark has been made a lot more dangerous on honor difficulty than it used to be. So if you don't want to fight it and do want to get down to the Mushroom Town where there's valuable merchants, just note you can skip basically all of the hazards there by just using Featherfall and jumping from somewhere like here right down to that spot near the Fiery Mushroom. The BOOOAL can't get to you there, up into there, get the waypoint, and you're good to go.
I've got a long road ahead.
Let's get back to the Goblin Sanctum. Over here, you can talk to Abduract, and if you play your cards right, you can get the Loviatar's love buff for the rest of the run. One good trick for doing that, if you didn't already know, by the way, is to take off your armor, and then you get this buff called Ardent Apostle during this little ritual. It gives you +4 for all your checks that you need to make. Fairly valuable. You get 15 XP for getting it, so you might as well. And then, of course, you know, free the prisoner, slaughter Abduract, slaughter the goblins, free Volo, and just kind of start killing most goblins in the temple, with a few exceptions or things to talk about next. Alright, so here we are in the Warg Pens, about to try to free Halsin. Now, normally, when you do this, Halsin breaks down the gate and crushes Brawler Burkhardt, and then you get no XP for that. Whenever someone dies in a cutscene, you get no XP. Try to kill them yourself before the cutscene would happen. Here we're gonna just, you know, shoot Brawler Burkhardt in the back, I think, and begin the fight that way. 20 XP, once the Brawler goes down, that is. So over here, deep in the Goblin Temple, there's this one guy who's still faithful to Maglubiot, the Goblin God, rather than to the Absolute. If you let him out of his cage after first disarming the trap, and then kill him, he's worth 20 XP. Here we are with Minthara. We want to resolve the Salza quest properly, and also set up for the Goblin Siege. Make sure to go to her before killing Dror Ragzlin, that's important. Or before letting the goblins alert things by hitting the wardrobes, that would also ruin everything. So, we stick our neck out for her again. So now we go ahead and pretend that will help her with the siege. So we got a bit of XP for that interaction. And Salza's still alive, we can kill her later on in Act 2. Now this is important. Once she leaves the building, then we can attack Dror Ragzlin and finish things off and still get the Goblin Siege. But if we attract Dror Ragzlin prematurely, while she's still in the building, she'll become hostile instead and we won't get to do that whole siege battle, and that will be bad for us.
What now?
Over here with Dror Ragzlin, don't just walk up and attack him. Either take control of the ritual or let him do it, but make sure that he does not finish it properly.
Riddles.
We got a bit of XP for that. And now we can go ahead and kill him. Once he dies, time for the Goblin Siege.
Ahead.
Alright, so it's siege time. Now one of the most annoying, because it's bugged, quests in the game is to help Rika get Donnie. So go ahead and talk to her and find information about how she's looking for Donnie. So then Donnie, you're supposed to be able to get him to come up with you, but you can't. So instead you have to do like endless spams of minor illusion to have cats lead him all the way slowly up to there.
There you are.
Alright, so he's finally being dealt with. Okay, so then we wait until he gets into the stronghold, and then I think we can talk to her and the quest resolves.
Thanks for finding Donnie.
35 XP. It's easily missable. I think people don't normally do it, but it's a bit of a nuisance, certainly. Alright, Goblin Siege time. One of my favorite battles in the game. I made a whole guide video about how to optimize it. Alright, Goblin Siege battle. One of my favorite battles in the game. I made a whole guide video about how to do it with no damage taken to either yourself or the tieflings. It's a lot of fun. You get 400 or so XP of just goblin enemies that don't exist outside this fight, or the sword spiders and things like that. You can also knock out Minthara in the fight, and that will work just fine for recruiting her later on. One thing you can do after Halsin comes back, by the way, is speak to Orm the Bear, and he'll give you XP because he's happy that Halsin has returned. Now, if you want to knock out all the Druids, I guess you can do that pretty safely at this point. Bear in mind one thing I learned this time, which is that I think that the Bear Bosk and the Druid Findle whom you rescued, I believe, disappear if the Goblin Siege happens. So they're no longer around for me to KO if I wanted to. Next up, the other dark side of nature with the Hag. I found some pretty clever tricks with her. Alright. So I'm outside the Hag's house at this point, and I have a hireling from Withers, and I've also banished my main character very, very far away so he can't hijack the conversation. This way Kurz will actually be in front and talking to the Hag. And remember, we set this up by being dumb before and not grasping that she was a hag and helping her take out the two brothers. If we continue to be dumb now, we get rewarded for our stupidity.
Irina.
Go with, I'm glad you got here safely.
Thanks.
You can see we got 60 XP for just falling for that, basically, and treating it as if it was a quest to help her get here. Anyway, we can now go through and let her gouge out the eye, and that's worth 100 XP. And I'm going to have a hireling do it so I don't have anyone in my party have actual consequences for it. But you could, of course, have a main character have their eye gouged out, as long as they aren't Will and haven't had Vola take out their eye.
You've done it.
Alright, so she removes it, she fails, etc., etc., etc. Another 100 XP for that. So resolving things in that way is worth quite a lot. She will then take Marina and then proceed into her lair as you normally would. Alright, so here we are at the bottom of the Hag lair, about to do the actual Hag fight. And I've discovered another very powerful trick here. So I'm going to leave Will out of the party and have him hide. Everyone else can go ahead and advance.
In the cage.
Never wanted the easy path.
And the Hag will spawn in around this point as usual. Alright, she's severely injured, so she'll probably begin her, don't hurt me dialogue pretty soon. We'll make sure that the main character is accessible for that.
Fancy that, Chelsea's.
Wait! Ah!
Okay, so, see, the normal trade-off in this game here is that her Hag hair power-up she can give you if you spare her is really, really valuable and powerful for you. But that means you haven't killed her, so you get no XP for all your trouble here, and also her victims can't really be saved. They stay cursed and things like that. So, go ahead and do the intimidation or deception, whichever you're better at here.
You greedy little bollocks. Fine. Here.
Anyway. We can now switch over to Will. We can choose what kind we want. Probably dexterity for this party. Now, Will, of course, is not in the dialogue, because he's sneaking over there and not in combat. So if he now sneaks up while they're just still locked in conversation, he can then go ahead and finish her. And we get the XP.
I've got a long road ahead.
And now her victims are savable upstairs, and we can advance Marina's quest and so forth. Her victims are now properly savable. You could, if you were the Dark Urge or something, I guess just kill them anyway. Not really worth much. 10 for Ephron, 10 for Lauren over there. You could do that. On to the Risen Road. Alright, so over here we are, right before the hyenas, which will turn into gnolls. Now, you actually want to allow that to happen. You get more XP that way. If you kill them in a hyena form, you get only 20 XP. If they turn into gnolls, then you get 40, plus you got the 20 from them dying as hyenas.
Oddly enticing. You hear what you watch. Her darling pups will not be of her own species. Bones snap as the hyena is hollowed from the inside.
Dark Urge stuff here. Might as well get the inspiration.
Forming a vessel, sunk her belly, split the raw hate of life from the miracle of death.
Very goofy looking faces. We'll overall get 160 XP that way for having to turn into gnolls first. Nothing really matters with the boss gnoll fight over here. Kill them all or have them kill each other, it doesn't matter. What does matter is make sure that you talk to the two Zhentarim, and then you want to get from them the treasure chest. Probably killing them is the best choice, but do not open the chest. Keep that locked up to give to their boss, Zaris.
Breathing.
Over here on the eastern side of Waukeen's Rest, you can move a rock to find a Zhentarim stash. First time you reach into that, you get 25 XP. Over here we have the Flaming Fist, quite a few of them. I find it hard to justify on most runs attacking them, but if you can justify it, they're worth 380 XP, and they're a quite fun fight, I would say. One of the tougher enemy groups in Act 1, so I enjoy that challenge. I expect most people to do the fire rescue and so forth, and get Floric out, and get out Benrin and help him with his wife and the dowry and so forth. So I'm not going to count that, that's probably XP people usually get. Do note, once Floric is giving you the reward, you can KO her here without any consequences. You could consider that for 150 XP. Hard to justify, but you could do it. She has it coming, you just don't know that she has it coming yet. Alright, now, over here in this corner, the western side of Waukeen's Rest, we have this Panicked Ox. It's worth basically no XP if you fight it, but if you talk it down, it's worth a surprisingly high amount, 50 I believe. Alright, next up, into the Zhentarim hideout. Now this next trick is pretty important. We want to hand in the chest unopened to Zaris, so we can get the reward for the quest. And befriend the Zhentarim in here so we can then buy Titan String Bow from Brem down there and start the Oscar painting quest and things like that too. But we also want to guarantee we can get the box back after killing Zaris then, with the Iron Flask still inside it, so we can then have the spectator that we can fight for 150 XP later on. The trouble is, she's not guaranteed to drop it. I found a workaround that seemed to make her guaranteed to drop it though, as far as I can tell. Let me know if it doesn't work for you, but this worked for me when I tested it again and again and again and again and again.
Tell me you've got...
Alright, so we hand her the chest, she makes like the goofiest happy face about getting it.
Black bones, you did it!
Now before exiting this dialogue,
Don't delay.
we go into the trading menu with her and like buy up all of her random junk items. Now she's nothing else that she could randomly drop instead of the box, basically. Talk to the Zhentarim, get the Titan String Bow, blah blah blah, and then we kill her. And she's got the chest back, as I was saying. So let me know if that doesn't work for you, but that order always worked for me with many tests. Now we can summon the spectator at will for 150 XP in a fight. Anyway, kill all the Zhentarim, up here and also in the back of the cave. They're all worth about 520 all told. Alright, so here we are, west of Waukeen's Rest, near the bridge where the dragon will swoop down and so forth. And here we come up with a few interesting things we can do for XP. One is we can knock out Elika here. That's worth 40. Maybe justifiable. She'll still be dead in the creche, where you can talk to her corpse for more XP as part of her quest.
What are you doing? Hold up, got more important.
I guess Ragrasham is fighting words, we're attacking.
I'm going to...
So,
Let's get going.
we have down there 4 Flaming Fists, though we can only see 2 of them right now. There's Dion and 3 other guys. They're about to be blown up by a dragon in a cutscene along with the bridge. And if we get anywhere closer to them, that's what's going to happen. We can't shoot from here, no matter what bow or whatever we have. We can't throw from here. But here's what we can do. We can summon a Mage Hand. It doesn't trigger the cutscene. So you spawn a Mage Hand over there, go into turn-based mode. You up front, let's drop a smoke powder bomb on the ground. Mage Hand, grab it, fly over to there. So now we'll throw the smoke powder bomb in the midst of the 4 of them, and it should kill about 3 of them. I can never seem to get it to kill Dion. It seems like no matter what I do, he just is always instantly gone and the cutscene begins, but getting 3 of them for 120 XP is still decent.
Come on already. We've got a roadblock to clear.
There is some more XP we can get, though at a sad cost. See, these are a very fun fight. I definitely enjoy this battle against the Githyanki, but we can actually get more XP if we don't fight them and instead pick this tough set of dialogue choices. So we'll go ahead and do that, I guess. Start off with something like this. You can prepare to attack or whatever you want. So now we'll say that we'll help if we can. And then he'll try to read our mind instead.
He begins to move his hand in a quick
We need to beat this check to figure out what he's doing. It's easier than I thought it was, but that's fine. Apparently I needed the boosts.
You realize he's casting Detect Thought.
And then we need to resist that. So if we resist all of these things successfully, and then do a persuasion check after this.
Nothing even approaching a useful thought in that skull. I ought to just kill. Unlikely you'd be successful. Very well.
Alright. Now they'll all just leave it. In any case, you get more XP there by 160 than you would by actually just fighting them. Onward to the Underdark. So I basically just arrived in the Underdark, did my trick of Featherfall, jumping down here, skipping almost everything, and I'm already level 6, I want to say, before I even left the wilderness, so that just shows how much XP you can get if you're creative up there. Anyway, we now have a quest to go deal with the Duergar. We can talk to Glut over here, but I actually recommend don't bring him with you immediately. If you do, the Duergar will be immediately hostile to you, and if you don't let that happen, if you instead talk to them, you can get a quest from them too, which you won't want to follow up on because that would involve killing Thola. But just getting the first breadcrumb of it is worth some XP, so you might as well do that. And I think in character you can do that justifiably by, hearing both sides of the story basically, then picking one to go after that.
You know.
Alright, so he starts joining us, we'll just kick him back out of the party.
Something to ask.
So we spotted them, we can talk to them.
Got someone sneaking up on us.
And you're dead.
Told you. Hunting. Gotta kill the slave and...
So we got a bit of XP there for just beginning that.
Bosses in...
Can't give up.
So we've now heard both sides, we now go up and get Glut and then fight him. I should address one notable exploit involving Gek though. If you start a fight here, on the first round of combat, he will summon some zombies. 4 of them specifically. Each zombie is worth 3 XP. Now he'll only do that once per fight, but if you happen to leave and then come back, he'll do it again. And so in theory you can infinitely farm XP with this. Now I wouldn't do that, that's way too much of an exploit for me, but you could theoretically farm extra XP that way. However, it's extremely slow. And furthermore, if you try to really overdo it, I've heard your game starts getting really laggy as the bodies start piling up and so forth. So, in theory, with all the other XP that I've found, if you farmed 600 recasts of his zombies, you should be able to hit level 12 in Act 2, but that's so much of an exploit I wouldn't even consider doing that. Can't possibly recommend it. So here we are on the Spectator battlefield, having killed the Spectator. Now, it used to be that if you manually destroyed the Drow statues, you got 40 XP apiece for them. For 6 of them, that was 240. Pretty good. But, thankfully, they have patched it. You don't have to manually do that anymore. Once the Spectator dies, you get full credit for all the Drow, whether or not they're still petrified. You should probably unpetrify this guy in particular over here, and advance the quest to get the Adamantine Forge and so forth, of course. So one easily missed bit of XP in the Underdark here is, when you get to these holes, turn into a small-sized race like a gnome or a halfling, and reach into the hole. You'll have this option if you're short only. You need to make a little check.
Arrows, you flinch.
And if you succeed that, you get 25 XP for it, and a topaz.
Got a long road.
Next up, one of my least favorite parts of the game, killing the arcane turrets over here at the Mage's Tower. There are 4 of these things in total. They are very tedious. There are many ways to avoid fighting them at all, but if you do kill them, you get 160 XP for the job. Notably, by the way, in the floor before Bernard on the roof, you can find the Prince of the Comet Part 1 and also the Tirsu writing cipher. If you read that, you get 95 XP per piece of the Orpheus story that you find. There are 2 here in Act 1, so 190 XP, and there's a 3rd one over in Act 2 as well. If you aren't already on Honor difficulty, make sure to be on Tactician before you go up this elevator. That will spawn in 2 additional animated armors to fight with Barnard for another 80 XP. Also note, in this room, you can find a book about the dog, Myrna and so forth, and Myrna's grave and how Myrna liked Autumn Crocus. So, Myrna's grave is here at kind of the western part of the Underdark. So if you've read that book, you have the option now to put Autumn Crocus on the grave. So you get a little bit of XP for that. So, hidden away here beyond some mushrooms in this pretty deserted part of the Underdark near the Arcane Tower is the climb down to the Festering Cove, where the worshippers of BOOOAL wait. The best outcome that I found for this is as follows. Go down and talk with most of your party, I guess, but leave one person out of it who's good at stealing. So we go up, BOOOAL shows up. They want to sacrifice you.
Our Lord of Murder demands sacrifice. You will be an offering for the grip.
Anyway, while they're thinking about that, we go ahead and drink an invisibility potion, or otherwise sneak in. Okay, so here we go, stealing from Pool Drip. We want to steal that sickle from him. That's important because basically they would normally give you that if you agree to become BOOAL's chosen, and that's not very good. But if you made a sacrifice, they give you a much better buff for your whole party. But if they don't have the sickle to give you, they give you the buff instead without having the sacrifice.
For blessed BOOAL.
So we basically agree to be his chosen. We get a massive amount of XP for that, 830. We can then kill them. We don't get any extra for that, but they are kind of a fun fight. Speaking of fun battles, Sovereign Glut will want you to overthrow poor Spa over here and help him take over, which involves fighting potentially the entire Myconid colony. A ton of fun. But the trouble is, if you kill Spa, the rest of the Myconids go passive at that point, and you don't get the XP from them and the battle ends. What I recommend instead is kill Spa last. Kill every other monster in this place, and then finish off Spa. That way you get the maximum amount of XP, which I believe is 595. I recommend knock Spa off the cliff over here. Not over the waterfall, make sure he doesn't go over there or he'll be instantly dead. But off of this cliff, they'll keep him out of your way while you kill all the other Myconids, basically. Next up, onward to Grymforge. So, here is Corsair Greymon and his crew. Now, I do find it very funny to just shove him into the water here, but if we do that, we don't get the XP for him, so don't do that. Attack his crew at this point. Fight them all, they're worth 375 XP. Over here in Grymforge, as usual for going into a new settlement, talk to everyone and so forth. You can get some XP for spotting the hidden item among the bodies over there. You get a bit for helping the stonemason Kith over there identify what had happened to this place. You can talk to and take out these 3 Rothay for 120 XP, I believe. And then over here, make sure to search this body and get the quest to begin about the Monk's Amulet. Worth a good amount to get that breadcrumb here. 65, I think. Another useful trick that gives you a little bit more XP is you want to befriend Brithvar at first, cooperate with him, and then when you're battling near and so forth, kill Brithvar during that fight. Then he'll be replaced with a new Dwargar during the next conversation, and then he can fight the rest of the Dwargar at that point, netting you another plus 75 XP compared to just battling everyone conventionally. There's not that much else to say about Grymforge though, just go everywhere, do everything, kill all the enemies or whatever. If you also chose to KO the gnomes, they're worth a shocking amount of XP. I think you get 245 for KOing all the gnomes here without any real story effects as far as I can tell.
Right.
You could also go back and KO Thulla, the sick one, but she's not really worth more than 10, so that's not very good, and hard to justify a roleplay perspective. And I guess you could also take out Glut after having just put him in charge once you've handed the Nir's head to him and finished that quest for another 40. That's easier to justify because Glut is a tyrant and we've been told that in character. On to the mountain pass. So here we are at the outskirts of Rosymorn Monastery. Do not go around this corner or really approach any closer than this. Once you get over there, these 2 Githyanki thugs that are torturing some hobbits will start a cutscene before you can do anything to them. And basically, they will kill one of these halflings and drag the other 2 inside to then torture and kill in the captain's quarters. Kind of like the previous Githyanki atrocity in a cutscene, one thing I found we could do is summon up a mage hand and have that throw a bomb over there. It became necessary to destroy the halflings in order to save them. But I found a better way, because one of those halflings might actually make a saving throw against the bomb. So here we are in the room with the drunk kobolds. I got in here, of course, via the climbing up the vines, going through the Grimishka room, and then dropping down. And so these guys are still out there by the front door. Make sure, by the way, while you're in this room to destroy all the barrels. There'll be some that won't usually burst during the fight and still have kobolds inside them, and every kobold is worth an absurd 75 XP because this game's XP scaling is completely insane. Anyway, if we walk over here, we'll see those poor halflings still being tortured. And from here we actually have line of sight where we could launch a powerful spell like a fireball out of them or something like that. 225 XP right there. Don't worry about the Githyanki getting away, by the way, we'll fight them later on. Anyway, I then recommend if you're going into the creche itself, don't go through the front door. Go through the side entrance, which you can access down here via these cliffs and some vines and things like that, and then jumping down and so forth. That only gives you small exploration XP rather than big, so you can save the big zones for later on when you're higher level if you want to. So here we are in the infirmary. I recommend going here first out of the major rooms in the Githyanki creche, so we get the Zaythisk power up. These Githyanki kids are torturing a Grimishka. We'll let it out of the box and then put it out of its misery, I guess. Alright, over here we are at the Githyanki schoolroom, where once again, surprise, surprise, someone is getting tortured. But this time we can actually help, and it's worth XP to do so. So let's go in there and save Varl. Talk our way out of this mess. And that's worth 35 XP right there, saving him. Then, what we do next is important too. Sometimes those disappear later on when the place becomes hostile, then you'll miss out on this opportunity. We need to talk with them about Orpheus and get another Orpheus story piece. That's another 95 XP. Then, if we were to kill all these awful people in here, and Varl also died, he'd be worth 75 XP at that point. So, all in all, 205 XP for handling this in the right way. So over here, approaching the captain's quarters, we have one of my favorite battles in the entire game. It's a shame, I think it's probably unintentional, really. What we can do is open that door, then we will, when conversation begins here, tab out someone else who's not involved, and have them then go over and shoot someone like that, which should then begin combat. And if you walk in, this should aggro everyone else in there too, I think. And now we have a truly massive fight going on, and it's a lot of fun, albeit very challenging. So killing those 5 guys is worth quite a lot of XP. I believe it's worth 375 in total. Alright, now I'm doing the eagle fight a little bit out of order here, because there is exploration XP when you go up into the eagle nest area. I wanted to save that till I hit level 8, which I just did, so now I came back here to get that. 2 things to bear in mind for the eagle fight. Number 1, make sure that you're on tactician difficulty or higher. That means they can summon more eagles. Number 2, let them summon the eagles. But leave the mother one alive while she summons the reinforcements. You want that. Each is worth 40 XP, so that's 200 for letting the reinforcements arrive. I made a whole guide video about this fight that I'll link to, but basically you can kill this simulacrum of Elminster for 1000 XP. It's a pretty tough, pretty fun fight, but the trouble of course is if you do that, in Act 2 you will lose Gale forever. Unless, that is, you were playing as Origin Gale, and then go right ahead. You'll even meet Elminster again in Act 3 that way, somehow or other. I guess this is a simulacrum, maybe meet another simulacrum in Act 3. In any case, 1000 XP if you're willing to do that, but you can only do that if you don't care about having Gale in the party past Act 2.
Of course.
When you try to leave the mountain pass area, you'll usually be visited by Voss, along with an unnamed raider for some reason. And if you choose to fight them, it'll spoil some things for Lae'zel's quest in Act 3. But if you don't care about that, he is worth 475 XP, counting himself and his unnamed raider. While we're talking about killing off powerful NPCs for XP, here is the Oathbreaker Knight. This Death Knight will show up in your camp if you have a paladin in the party who broke their oath, which you can do pretty easily by having higher than Kurz, for example, go off and do anything bad whatsoever if you wanted to. So this Death Knight shows up, and if you kill him, you get 640 XP. And a pretty challenging fight, which is interesting. But of course, if you have actual paladins in the party, that could be a problem, because that means they can never get their oath back. They can only ever be an Oathbreaker for the rest of the game. I guess for the sake of completeness, I should say that you can also KO Raphael at your first meeting with him for 1400 XP. Now, I wouldn't ever do that, because it's so cheesy, it involves multiple exploits, and it's also just really tedious, and impossible to justify happening in-universe, but 1400 XP is a lot of XP. You can check out videos about how to do that if you want to. I also would not normally ever knock out Halsin over here, but you can knock out Halsin with no consequences at this point in the act for 150 XP. I guess the last thing you could do here is take out all the various merchants in the game, Blurg, Omeluum, and over there Dareth and her husband and things like that. Taking out all the merchants is 240 if you can justify it. With that, we are ready to move on to Act 2, the Shadow Curse lands. Do that via Grymforge first. So the reason to come from this direction is that this is the way to get the encounter with Jonas and Lysandra and the other Harpers over here, which is very lucrative in XP terms.
Stop!
So we end up fighting 6 Shadows and Jonas, all worth 75 XP apiece while being really quite easy to take out. Additionally, if you save at least 1 Harper, you get another 30 XP at the end, so 555 overall for this quite easy fight. You could optionally kill off 2 of the Harpers yourself too for another 150. You could maybe say it was an accident or something like that. I won't do that in this run though. I'll fight all the Harpers in one block later on in Last Light Inn. While we're on this path, might as well investigate this Raven over here and have a whole swarm of Ravens attack us.
This is tainted by the shadow.
Most people probably already know about that fight, but it is worth a ton of XP for how easy it is, so really worth doing as fast as you can. The whole thing is worth 480, I think, and all the birds have 1 hit point. Like, it's incredibly easy for how much XP it is. But now, actually, we don't want to continue to Last Light Inn. We instead backtrack and go to the Mountain Pass side of things and go to the Shadowcurse lands from there. And the reason for that basically is just to be able to kill this one goblin that shows up here. Alright. Then we proceed to where the Absolute Camp is next and have some interactions that we need to do very carefully down there.
Boy!
So he throws the bone, trying to get the hyena to go off into the Shadowcurse and die. If that happens, you don't get the XP for it. We can't have that. So we interrupt them here.
Take it, you're the... Right you are.
So we say we're the True Soul. Now, this will give you inspiration for the Dark Urge, but it's not worth it. The inspiration is actually less valuable than killing the goblin would be. So don't do that.
Control.
So what we do instead, of course, is just go up to Kansif, play nice, summon the Drider. So before talking to the Drider, ungroup your main character or whoever you want to probably talk to him. Move over hereabouts, make sure you have a light on you, and then talk to him from this side, I would say. And make sure you don't get to the options on this conversation where he kills a goblin in the cutscene, because you get nothing for that. So just keep it short. And then the hyena will just run off for no reason. We want to go with it and get out of sight of them and then shoot it there. Otherwise it gets away. Alright, so there goes the hyena. We are running. Going to turn-based mode around this point when it's getting Shadow Cursed before that happens to it. Dash over there. There we go, 40 XP for that. Alright, so we walk along with him until the Harper ambush. No matter which side you take, I would probably, attack the Harpers first, then realize your horrible tragic mistake, and then kill the Drider. But you want to kill the Drider now for 150 XP up front rather than, at the end of Act 2. And you also definitely want to free the Fairy now, Pixie rather, which is worth 120 XP and also, of course, just very valuable. Now, a fight that I've heard a lot of people don't know about is this Shadow Mastiffs one. If you snuff out these torches, then a pack of Shadow Mastiffs appear and attack you. I believe they're worth 200 XP in total. They are worth 200 XP in total. So here is one place I'd love to get some thoughts or ideas from viewers about. So we're about to enter Last Light Inn here. Not my main version of this run, just kind of on an experimental one. See, normally when you get in here, Jahira is suspicious of you, but then Maul comes out and vouches for you, and that's how you get entrance into Last Light Inn. But if Maul is dead, instead it is Marcus who shows up now and vouches for us. But if we then, report him for what he is,
he's been with us,
and he's going to create these 13 severed hands called Crawling Claws that are each worth 50 XP. So that is 650 XP right for the picking. Quite a lot. The trouble is, as I said, this only happens if Maul is dead. And as far as I'm aware, there is no way to kill Maul yourself. She's immortal. You can shoot her or whatever and she'll be just fine. So that means, as far as I'm aware, the only way to have Maul be dead is to have all the tieflings be dead because they were killed by the goblins or something like that. And that is absolutely not worth it. Way too many quests locked out that way. Way too much XP lost that way. So, if you can think of a way for Maul to be dead without the other tieflings being dead, or to otherwise engineer this encounter happening in some other way, I'd love to hear it. But I can't count this on my main run. There is no way to get it to happen without botching other things that would cost me more XP in the long term. So, here we are interacting with the strange Ox in Last Light Inn. We're feeling that it is a shapeshifter, basically. I'd recommend if you kill it now, it's worth 90 XP, whereas it was not really worth anything back in Act 1. So, kill it now, you can get his wizard hat and things like that. Another thing to do is to talk to Roland in here, in Last Light Inn. He's drinking, he's angry that his brother and sister have vanished into the Shadowcurse area. You talk to him, then he'll go out on his own after that, and you can then rescue him from the shadows. This is about the right place in the Shadowcurse lands for that encounter. We were getting close to where Roland is. And I recommend doing this really like right after you get to Last Light Inn, I would say. Otherwise, it can bug in several ways and have him not actually be out here or things like that, so you want to just do it while it's possible to do. 2 shadows, 150 XP, you know, small stuff, but appreciated. So in this council room back in Last Light Inn, Floric is meeting with some Flaming Fist. These two in particular, Thadwick and Vidor, will only be here for this one scene. Once Floric leaves, they are gone, never to be seen again. So if you want their XP, it has to be acquired right now. Which reminds me, Floric will only be here with them if you go here before Moonrise Towers. If you go to Moonrise Towers first, she won't be here, which is why I did things in this order on this run here. Now, in this conversation, she'll basically reveal that she is so stupid and gullible that she's basically handing the city over to Gortash. She's gonna go ask him for help, and she won't listen to your evidence about how bad Gortash is. I think that makes it justifiable in character to just KO her and all these guys at this point. If so, I believe that is 630 XP for all of them. I'm not counting Flora because we talked about possibly knocking her out back in Act 1. That's about it for Last Light Inn, I would say. Most of the other interactions here are just kind of giving you quests to go rescue people in Moonrise Towers, which I presume you want to do already. So I'm now in the heart of Wraithwind Town here, and that reminds me, I want to say that there is basically no exploration XP in almost the entirety of Act 2. There is supposed to be some, but some of it just kind of bugged and doesn't actually work. They might patch it to work eventually in the future, I won't get my hopes up. Anyway, if we read these plaques in this order, it'll open up a secret area underneath this place. Down here in this Shar area, we can pray to get all-day buffs to Charisma, Wisdom, and Intelligence. And then if we do that, it'll open up this Sanctum back here, where if we then steal a dagger later on, we can spawn in these 3 Shadow Guardian things that are worth 180 XP in total. Alright, now, I mentioned that I did not fight the Spectator from the Iron Flask from the Zhentarim chest back in Act 1, though I should have. The reason I didn't do so was that I had heard from a previous commenter that if you fight it in the Shadow Curse lands, you can have it become Shadow Curse and then come back undead and fight it twice for double XP. If that was ever true, it's definitely false now. You can only get XP from it one time. In fact, furthermore, I want to say, as far as I can tell, you can never now get XP for anything that became Shadow Cursed due to your actions of any kind, or just due to you observing and doing nothing. If a creature was a pre-play Shadow Curse undead, that gives XP. But if it became Shadow Curse over the course of gameplay, you get nothing for it, ever. So don't let that happen. So you'll see we'll kill it. It gets Umbral Influxed. In one turn it'll be back, but we'll get nothing when we kill it again. As you can see. Alright, so over here to kind of the northeast of Moonrise Towers. But only if we go now, before going through the front door, we can find Zealot Kriz here. We can get a Mind Flayer Parasite and 140 XP from her. Next up, after clearing the docks here, we've got this Zhentarim shipping crate that's full of Mind Flayer tadpoles. So if we stand back and then break that, there'll be 1 live tadpole inside that we can shoot with good reflexes. It is worth a shocking amount of XP for being just a helpless tadpole. With that, we are now ready to go to the front door of Moonrise Towers. So yeah, that is my recommended order for the beginning of Act 2. First, enter via Grymforge, do the Shadows fight with the Harpers and so forth. Then go over to the Mountain Pass entrance, talk with the Absolute group there, take out the Hyena and the Goblin Brawler and things like that yourself, get the Moon Lantern, then go to Last Light Inn. In Last Light Inn, deal with Floric, whoever you're going to for your particular run, rescue Roland and so forth. Then go to the side entrance of Moonrise Towers, so you can meet Kriz, and only then go to the front door of Moonrise Towers. So here we are overlooking the throne room. When we go in there, a cutscene will begin where Dren tries to kill Ketheric. It doesn't work, of course. Ketheric kills Dren. Now, I tried finding different ways to see if we could just kill the goblins ourselves like that and get all the XP from them. And then the entirety of Moonrise Towers aggroes to you, basically, and then you can't do anything else here ever again. So is that worth it for 110 XP? I'd say probably not. Didn't do it on this run. So I've now gone through the throne room scene conventionally. So now we agree to kill them at this point.
You wouldn't hurt me, would ya?
We should say that we'll do this with our own hands. Otherwise we get no XP, so. Anyway, the 2 non-Saza goblins are worth 110 apiece. Saza's worth only 15. So, all told that's 235, which, is nice, I guess. It'd be cool if we could get Dren too, but I can't find a way to do that without aggroing all of Moonrise Towers and spoiling that. While you're in Balthazar's rooms, don't forget to find over here and read another one of the Orpheus discs. The final one, 95 XP for that. So out then on Balthazar's balcony, we can jump on up here and make our way to where there are some hidden flying ghouls we could fight. Go ahead and fight them. They are worth 330 XP, 110 apiece. So let's talk about one of the rescues here in Moonrise Tower's basement. We have a lot of people to help, but we should start with Minthara. This is not really extra XP related per se, but there's been a major bug with Minthara that I want to talk about the solution to, because I found that. So, join into this conversation here. You're supposed to be able to join in and kind of see what's happening with her mind and then save her there. But if you take most dialogue paths, she'll become non-interactable and then you're just stuck and you can't rescue her under any circumstances. It ruins having her in your party ever, really.
Come to observe, true soul.
So we can instead go with something like this, basically, and just watch at first. Then we can go with this. Try to comfort her. That will provoke these guys.
Rebellion? I think not.
So we fight them without ever going into Minthara's mind. That seems to be important as far as I can tell.
Let's cook with fire, baby.
Go ahead and take out these two gnomes. Easily done. And that makes her talk to us rather than vice versa. So that fixes the problem that we can't interact with her.
I didn't think anyone would come for me. Agreed.
Now go ahead and get out of here. And don't go with this or you'll be stuck. You won't be able to interact with her ever again. Go with let's go and just get out of here.
Lead the way.
So here on the coastline across from Last Light Inn over there, you can find some cursed Kuotoa. Quite a few of them. Now, oftentimes, there'll be two cursed Kuotoa chiefs for some reason. Possibly a bug, but it's very common. That's worth 110 extra XP, basically. I did not get it this time, so I could probably bet 110 XP further ahead if I had got that. I'm not aware of any way to actually make that happen. Let me know if you found a way to guarantee that there will be a second chief. Another side quest to do right, or rather to do wrong in the optimal way, is playing hide and seek over here with Oliver. Alright, now, do not go after him immediately. That makes you lose somehow. You want to win the first round, then lose the second for the optimal outcome. So he spawns in his family of monsters. If we kill them, they are worth like 410 XP, I think, and then when we complete the round, we then get a little bit more XP from Oliver himself, just talking to him, and that gives us our final count, I think, of 445 for handling this just right. If you do this battle now and kill everyone on your own before the Harpers show up, you net out a massive 2,900 extra XP, compared to if you wait for the Harpers to get here when almost everyone's either dead or just mysteriously vanished. So, when you're ready, when you're prepped, just come here and battle all of Moonrise Towers. Alright, so here at the beginning of the Gauntlet of Shar, first go down the main path here, otherwise you won't get this encounter at all. We want to go up and meet Balthazar's group of skeletons and the Justiciars that they are fighting. During this fight, you can kill the allied skeletons, and you should also not kill the Umbral Tremors. Take out all the Justiciars as they spawn, then leave the Umbral Tremors on the field spawning more Justiciars for several rounds. If you do that, between the extra Justiciars that you get to kill and the allied skeletons you get to kill, you should net out an extra 360 XP beyond what you'd usually get. It could be more, but in my experience, it's a little bit random. Sometimes, some Justiciars just don't give XP, and I can't find a pattern to it. After dealing with that, you can go head back to this main chamber here and head west, and go up kind of a semi-hidden path of mushrooms over here, and then you eventually will find the Cloaker. So here we are on the side path, about to meet more of Balthazar's skeletons. And more importantly, about to meet a horde of Justiciars if we play our cards right and let them all spawn in. So the amount of XP you get for that massacre is pretty big. Maybe about 1280 or so, but it's hard to be sure because again, some Justiciars just don't give XP and I can't tell why. Maybe it's a bug.
Nothing hurts anymore.
So, then there is Balthazar in here. Now, my recommendation is that you go in here, chat with him, buy his potion or whatever, and then you attack him in here. But don't kill him in here. Just like banish him or whatever, crowd control him in some way, and then just run away. You can roleplay just about that, as he keeps saying he'll come back from the dead. Maybe in character you did kill him and he just came back later on. But the important thing is, you want to kill his henchmen here, the ghouls and, flesh. But you really, really want to have the fight against him at the bottom of the Shadowfell, where he has tons and tons of summons. So for that reason, I recommend kill off his henchmen here, then run away while he's crowd controlled, and then you can fight him seriously at the bottom of the Shadowfell. Another missable fight, here kind of near the bottom of the Shar Temple, is the one against the rat swarm we've been antagonizing throughout this little exploration. All told, the whole thing, including killing Lurthendor himself at the end, is worth 275 XP. Here we are in the library near the bottom of the Shar Trials area. The librarian there silences everyone, but more importantly for our purposes, it also spawns in Justiciars, just like an Umbral Tremor would. So let it do that for several rounds. I got 180 extra XP that way. So for the Trials of Shar, you basically want to do several of them quite badly for more XP. The self-same trial here, you're probably supposed to do with just one person, but if you bring in all 4 people, you get to fight 4 of these shadow doppelganger type enemies or whatever, for an extra 330 XP. And then for the one all about sneaking, I'd say you actually want to just walk in and shoot the 2 shadows that are right there. Ideally in turn-based mode.
What do I have to lose?
1 down, 1 to go. 220 XP for the 2 of those. Alright, so when you reach this point, past the Trials of Shar, do not go in until you are absolutely certain you've done everything else you might want to do in Acts 1 or 2, really. Because this is the point of no return for pretty much everything. So, if there's any place you haven't gone left in Act 1, any exploration to do, any NPCs you considered taking out but hadn't done so yet, go back and do that now. Likewise, if you haven't already fought Moonrise Towers, definitely do that now. If you want to knock out the Harpers, now is the time for that. If you go into the Shadowfell, a lot of them are just kind of gone from the game and won't be at Moonrise Towers. Even if Moonrise Towers is all clear, none of them are dying. It's hard to say exactly how much XP you get from this, because it depends on how many, if any, either died accidentally or were killed by your previous actions. For me, it was about 1,620 when it took out all the Harpers, inside and outside the inn, but none of the civilians here, just the Harpers. So here we are at the bottom of the Shadowfell, about to engage Balthazar and the horde that we will allow him to summon. I calculated about 1,275 extra XP from the skeletons that he summons here. So he summons his horde here, we'll take them all out, we'll rescue Aelin, I guess we have to, and then we'll move on to some other secret fights before Ketheric. Moonrise Towers is weirdly empty, no friends, no foes, because we killed everyone ourselves before any of this Aelin stuff happened. And we knocked out the Harpers too. But, down in the basement there's still a fight going on, somehow or other. Now, this is more Necromites than I think I usually see here. I'm not quite sure what caused that, whether this is like a one-time glitch, or I think more likely, whether this happens because all the Flaming Fists were KO'd and therefore couldn't be here. Let me know your own experiences doing this fight too, if you've KO'd Flaming Fists and things like that. In any case, it's worth about 1,400 XP. Even without the Necromites, it's worth about that much, a little bit less. So here we are, outside the door to Ketheric's first boss fight, and we are, as you can see here, level 11, with about 4,000-ish surplus XP to our names. So if you want to be level 11 before the first Ketheric boss fight, out of my list of options here, you can skip about 4,000-ish of them, roughly. So down here in the Mind Flayer colony, there's still some extra XP to get. In particular, kill all the stray intellect devourers here. I'm going to assume you already have killed the ones that were actually in fights, like the one in the Tadpoling Center, for example, or the ones with Chop the Bugbear. But I count about 1,260 XP worth of stray intellect devourers just wandering around. So here we are before Ketheric Thorm's second form, that is the Merkle battle, and we have level 11 with almost exactly 10,000 surplus XP. A bit more on the companion party members, in fact. That is a pretty big cushion. That means if some of these things don't fit your roleplay, or some of these things have consequences you don't want to deal with, like losing Gale by fighting the Elements or Simulacrum, things like that, that's okay. 10,000 XP out of this list you can just not do for your particular run, and still hit level 11 for the biggest boss battle in Act 2. I found a lot of extra XP, it seems. Now that is the climax of Act 2, but not actually the final end of it. There is still this party for one thing. And here at the party, there's some no-name Flaming Fists you could technically take out if you wanted to. I count 660 XP worth of spare flaming fists around with no names and no further role in the story, of course. A few other NPCs you could kill if you wanted to go hog wild, but I probably wouldn't do that, of course, because Act 3 has more or less infinite XP available pretty fast. But if you're just trying to see, for the sake of curiosity, how much XP you can get in Act 2, of course, go ahead and do this stuff. And the very last thing to do in Act 2 is the battle in the Astral Prism with the Emperor and his Intellect Devourers against the Githyanki. If you kill the allied Intellect Devourers yourself, all of them, not just these 4, you get about 120 extra XP. Likewise, you get a little bit of extra XP in the moment before this, when the Githyanki attack your camp. They're coming out of a portal. If you let more of them spawn out of the portal before you go through it yourself, you can get 400 more XP that way. So here we are now, done with the portal, done with Act 2, and we are almost level 12 at this point. I don't think that there's another 8,000 XP to be found, but if I miss things, I'm certainly happy to hear about those. I get a couple hundred more from Tieflings, I get a couple hundred more from that one goblin that I couldn't kill because it would aggro to all of Moonrise Towers earlier and things like that, but I think this is just about as good as it is possible to do with all the tricks that I've found. Well, hopefully we've all learned a bit more about how XP works in this game today, both the basics and also some of the creative ways that you can earn more of it. I hope this is helpful to many of you out there with your own runs and challenges and things like that, and I'd be happy to try to build on this too. If you have any other ways to get unusual XP that I haven't thought of, let me know about those. Thank you for watching, everyone, and a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. The Irreverent Reverend, Master Knight DH, Jackie, Enlino, Travis, Andrew Curzon, Troobsy, Oliver, Gregory, William Wakefield, Broken Box, Jeffrey Morse, Jack, Marcus the Carcass, Nubiana, Nicholas Schmuck, Kostya Nesterovich, Frederick Brune, Techno Waffle, Nebular, I Loop, Emperor Kong 420, Robin, Mickenballs, Micah Marie, Stefan Van Zyl, Eddie, Kaimu, Mina, Ali Kasimoglu, Skylar Sauce, Nick Myers, Emp Ninjas, Jupiton, Diabetic Cat, Marvin Fang, Max, Sosa 972, Afro Samurai, Cac per M, Daniel Bissett, and Lodestone. Have a great day, everyone.